This is the Rolling Stone Book of the Beats, which I was involved in and wrote two of the keynote essays for. Came out in, I think it was '99, and I want to do this here because it's the power of the collective, and we are all a collective here, gets together and you know, builds a collective, built this place we're in Jeannie's magic place. And we'll all collaborate together and create works together and support each other. That's kind of the point. So this is a little piece called Floating Universities, about the power of the collective in art. So, give me your befuddled masses, your rejection slips, pink slips, verbal slips, all. Knock down the gates, throw open the bars. The artists are having a ball. Teach me, show me, let me in. Challenge me, push me, help me win. Athletes have their team, and suits can wear the firm, but making art keeps you home alone, and Jeannie's happy place is the place you turn. Solo suffering totally blows, so into the sea you dive, searching for souls who swim like you and act at least vaguely alive. With deep sea whales you plunge the depths, with freshwater poets you school, with coral reefers you spark the sea, drinking in dreams from the pool. Out of the one grow many, and out of the many the one, the it, the aha, the unspoken thing. And from this desire for oneness, togetherness, the artists from the beat poets to the Lilith songwriters have collaborated, cajoled, and consoled each other into movements and generations. The beat generation may never had a single unified voice any more than Generation X does, but their range of harmonies ended up blending into a pretty, inspiring choir. And in this supportive spirit, a loosely defined beat community became a very interdisciplinary affair, as they freely mingled with and collaborated with abstract expressionist painters, jazz musicians, living theater actors, playwrights, photographers, cartoonists, dancers, mystics, and poets from other New York schools. In smoking Greenwich Village joints like the Cedar Tavern, the San Remo, and the Artist Club, something more than ideas were being exchanged. We were sharing the holy light, said composer David Amram, Kerouac's principal musical collaborator and the jazz laureate of the generation. The Artist Club was a beautiful get-together run by artists for artists, with talking, philosophy, arguments, and discussions by the hour by serious and brilliant people. And then afterwards, we'd all go over to the Cedar Tavern and continue the rap. It was like a floating university. Nowhere is this more visually animated than in the 1959 film Pull My Daisy, the single most illuminating beat creation, narrated by Kerouac's best 28 minutes on tape, captured in early cinema verite by evocative still photographer Robert Frank, playfully scored by the classically trained Amram, who also appears as the boppin' French hornist Mez McGillicuddy, and starring Allen Ginsberg, Gregory Corso, and Peter Orlovsky as themselves. This Lower East Side home movie is the only existing footage of the Beats in their prime, other than a few scattered TV clips. Co-produced by painter Alfred Leslie and shot in his canvas-filled loft, featuring painter Larry Rivers in the role of Neil Cassidy, who was sadly imprisoned in San Quentin at the time, with art dealer Richard Bellamy as the bishop antagonist, and financed by Wall Street libertine painter Walter Gutman. It's a film made by painters, about poets, narrated by a novelist. The same blessing of community has been felt by artists ranging from the high Renaissance in Florence to the also fairly high poetry Renaissance in San Francisco. Most of the groundbreaking geniuses of Florence, circa 1500, belonged to some regimented guild or patron stable. So many of the artists like Michelangelo, Leonardo, Filippo Lippi, along with architects, storytellers, and poets, would also gather in their own mock confraternities. In one of the more wacky images in art history, picture several of these blazing masters meeting as they did as the Company of the Cauldron for lively drunken dinners around a giant cooking pot in one of their sculpture studios. And they'd begin creating murals, not with paint, but with chicken legs, sausages, cheese, and jelly. Even though their quarrels were nearly as colorful as their art, never has a generation of artists advanced their media so quickly. Hi, I'd like to introduce you to my friend David. In San Francisco in the 1950s, a community of poets began a similarly inspired coffee house collective, meeting and reading in the nooks and bookstores of North Beach, embracing the Platonic adage, "To good men's parties, good men flock unasked." The cultural outlaws from around the nation who'd gathered in this traditionally liberal port city were starting to notice the same faces on the same stages night after night. And poets like Gary Snyder, Michael McClure, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Robert Duncan, Kenneth Patchen, and Rex Roth, assemblage artists like Bruce Conner and Wallace Berman, and filmmakers like Kenneth Anger and Harry Smith, all began enthusiastic crossover interdisciplinary collaborations that was breaking society's bird brain habit of pigeonholing artists. A lush garden had burst into bloom, and it wasn't long before the psychedelic Paisley ran wild. In a sun shower of day-glow paint, Ken Kesey and his merry pranksters had a great notion to take the collective to an even higher level. Incubating in pools of acid on the edge of Stanford University, Kesey was forming an ever-expanding coterie of authors and intellectuals that would eventually compass Neil Cassidy, the Grateful Dead, and Cherry Kool-Aid. As intrepid traveler Ken Babbs put it, the Pranksters are a collective of that American spirit that's been passed on from the founding fathers through Melville, Transcendentalism, Whitman, Faulkner, the Beats, and zoom into the Pranksters, where it took a wild turn of spontaneity and tribal dance, uninhibited jazz, nonsensical word raps, and any other unfettered reaching for the spirit towards newfound freedoms. A healthy dose of this prankster ethic came from the pranksterish Dadaists, who were trying to overthrow not only the rigidity of the fine arts in the 1910s and 20s, but civilization itself, by staging pranks in public places like cathedrals in the middle of a service. This gang of offbeat artists and authors had a collective effect on history, rather than simply getting arrested as solo psychos. And that's the great thing. As much as these cool collectives were happening in the recent past, many are thriving today. From communal artists' hearth like the Nuyorican Poets Cafe in New York and the Knitting Factory, to attention-getting rock fests like Lilith Fair and the Tibetan Freedom Concerts, groups of like-minded people are still working together for the collective better. It's good for the soul, for one thing, Cheryl Crow told me of joining the Lilith tour. I mean, it's what religion's based on, that commune, that community, the solace and the friendship of people who have a kindred spirit. Whether it's painting the walls with dinner in Florence or breakfast in bed for 400,000 at Woodstock, coming together stretches the horizon beyond the sum of its parts. And you don't have to be 500,000 strong. As George Harrison put it of his much smaller group, that was the good thing about being four together. Not like Elvis, you know. I always felt sorry for him later because he was on his own. He had his guys with him, but there was only one Elvis, and nobody else knew what he felt like. But for us, we all shared the experience. Being together counts, even a collective of two. Supporting someone who's supporting you is the seed of a generation. All right, thanks. Okay, so I'm just going to, that's over, we're done. A quick little ode to Jack, because that's what this is all about. So, Jack fights back from off the beaten track, still alive at 100, as if any of us ever wondered if that would happen. After his track star sprint through the pages of history, seeing around corners like Neil at the wheel, knocking over grammar cops, blowing past door stops to hidden darkened jazz joints, puffing on a mez joint, never missing the point of dancing with the mad ones and singing with the sad ones and drinking with the bad ones and skipping past the madhouse and staying clear of the jailhouse, heading for his mum's house to write another epic, soaring like he's manic, catching all the magic of mysteries dark and vast. He channeled spirits to the last. He hitched the roads, had a blast. He wrote it down really fast. Now, it's 50 since he's passed, so let's hoist this flag up our mast. Salute the work he amassed. Have you ever seen a cannon so vast? So let us all take a moment to thank the Pollard for the books, the young Prometheans for the camaraderie, the Columbia Cabal for the new vision, Neil Cassidy for the letter, Bill Canastra for the paper, Joan Haverty for the apartment, Malcolm Cowley for the championing, Gilbert Milstein for the reviewing, David Amram for the playing, Allen Ginsberg for the everything, Lowell for the celebrating, you for the being, we for seeing, the golden light of the golden eternity. Thank you, Jack, for all you shone. Thanks. Okay, so there's some Jack buzz for his 100th centennial this year. So read more Jack and support the collectives you're already a part of.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, cheers. Oh, and thanks to you, Internet world, for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it from all over those places, all over the world you might have been watching. Over and out from beautiful, hidden away Oswego, New York, a genie's happy place on a lakeside.
Beautiful view it is.